Zio Lin wakes up in a cold, futuristic hall, his vision blurry and head spinning. He's lying on the floor surrounded by hundreds of confused strangers who all seem just as lost. A harsh, authoritative voice demands he identify himself immediately. Our boy can barely focus, sweat dripping down his face as he tries to process exactly where he is and how he got here. The massive, sterile hall is filled with shadowy figures, all standing around in a state of absolute shock. It looks less like a school and more like some high-tech, futuristic holding facility. Zio Lin finally snaps out of his daze, eyes wide with pure shock. He has no memory of this place and is completely caught off guard by the strange situation he's in. Standing up, he looks around the crowded room, panic setting in as he realizes this definitely isn't his house. This guy starts wondering if he's been kidnapped or if it's a dream. A sharp pain shoots through his head, making him groan and clutch his messy hair. It feels like fragmented, strange memories are being forcibly shoved back into his mind all at once. Sudden realization hits him like a truck. He remembers receiving a mysterious package just hours ago in the middle of the night. That strange admission letter was definitely the cause of this. Rewinding a bit, Zio Lin was just a regular college grad before all this madness. He spent most of his days cooped up in a dark room, glued to his computer screen. Turns out our boy was a professional game booster, making a living by leveling up other people's accounts. He was so good that players called him a beast for his skills. He lived for the victory screen, thriving in the competitive world of online gaming. It was a simple, quiet life, even if his family didn't consider it a real, respectable job. After a long session, Zio Lin stretched out in his messy room, satisfied with another job well done. He had no clue that his normal life was about to be flipped. He spent his downtime snacking and scrolling through social media, just like any other guy his age. He was a total shut-in gamer who preferred the virtual world over the real. While browsing, he felt the constant pressure to find his true calling and prove his worth. Deep down, he wanted to show everyone that his lifestyle wasn't just a waste. Zio Lin's father used to scream at him, calling him a worthless loser for gaming all day. That's why he moved out, to show his family he wasn't just some basement-dwelling failure. Late one night, a sudden, loud knock at the door broke the silence of his apartment. Zio Lin was confused, since he wasn't expecting any visitors at such a late hour. A mysterious delivery man stood there holding a package, calling out his name. The guy's face was hidden, but he seemed harmless enough as he handed over the strange, dark parcel. As soon as he opened the package, a weird, dark energy started leaking out from the inside. This definitely wasn't anything he'd ordered, and he immediately knew something was very wrong. Strange, magical seals erupted from the floor, trapping him in a swirling vortex of blue light. Our boy could only watch in terror as his bedroom began to dissolve into air. A holographic message appeared, congratulating him on being admitted to Dawn Academy. Before he could react, the system initiated a forced teleportation, ripping him away from his life on Earth. In a blinding flash of energy, he was gone. The only thing left behind in his empty room was the tray from the delivery, sitting abandoned on the cold, dark floor. Back in the present, Zio Lin clenches his teeth, realizing he's been kidnapped to this academy. He starts wondering if this whole thing is just some twisted, high-tech prank or dream. A cold, mocking voice rings out from above, asking if he's finally decided to wake up. The speaker sounds dangerous and has zero patience for the confused freshmen lying around. This stern-looking dude is Instructor Chin Chuan, and he's already unimpressed. He looks down at Zio Lin, mocking him for staying unconscious for 3 hours like some pathetic, weak hibernating animal. Other students are losing it, screaming about calling the police and being kidnapped. They still think the old rules apply, completely clueless about the nightmare they just walked into. Chin Chuan just scowls at the noisy crowd, looking totally fed up with the chaos. Our boy's patience has officially run out, and he's ready to make them all shut up. Chin Chuan draws his sword, swinging it with terrifying force to quiet the room. A massive wave of purple energy surges through the hall, proving he isn't just bluffing about his power. The freshmen are frozen in fear as the shockwave slices through the air right behind them. This guy's power is on a completely different level, and everyone suddenly realizes they aren't safe. Holding his massive blade, the instructor demands absolute silence from the group. He's clearly done playing games and warns the students to keep their mouths shut if they want to survive. Zio, Lin, and the others can only stare in disbelief, wondering what kind of nightmare they've been dragged into. Our boy realizes that these instructors might actually be completely insane. Chin Chuan rubs his head in frustration, complaining about the bastards in admissions who keep sending him idiots. He looks like he's already reaching his breaking point with this new class. This dude turns his attention back to the crowd, pointing out how much time was wasted because someone woke up late. Zio Lin tries to stay quiet, hopping to avoid any more trouble. He officially welcomes everyone to Class 7 of Dawn Academy, explaining their mission. They're here to train, get stronger, and eventually earn the right to enter a mysterious new world. This guy promises that the new world offers everything people desire: power, wealth, and even immortality. Gu Xiaoyu listens intently, her eyes fixed on the instructor as he describes these impossible rewards. Enough talk, it's time for the real test. Chin Chuan announces they're starting the potential assessment immediately to see if any of these freshmen are actually worth the Academy's time and effort. Zio Lin scans the room, realizing there are over 200 people here in the same boat. He can't help but wonder if he'll ever see Earth again after this bizarre induction. Our boy steps into a futuristic scanning portal, feeling like a character in some high-tech RPG. He's skeptical about this new world nonsense, but curious to see what his own stats are. The scan finishes with a beep, and Chin Chuan checks the results on his holographic display. The first student scores a total of 24 points, which seems to be the current standard. Another guy celebrates wildly after scoring 32 points, looking like he just won the lottery. He's clearly proud of his decent stats, already feeling superior to the other confused freshmen around him. Students keep cycling through the portals, but the results are mostly average. Chin Chuan grumbles to himself, complaining that admissions needs to stop recruiting people from the literal dumpster of society. It's finally Zio Lin's turn to step into the scanner, but something feels off. The portal starts beeping incessantly, and the process is taking way longer than it did for the others. Sweat drips down his face as the seconds tick by with no result. He starts getting nervous, wondering if the machine is broken or if his stats are just that complicated to calculate. Even Chin Chuan looks confused, nodding that others only took a few seconds while this guy has been inside for nearly a minute. He starts thinking they might have found a hidden gem. Finally, the scan is complete, and Zio Lin breathes a sigh of relief. He's just glad the awkward silence is over, but he has no idea what's about to hit him next. The instructor tells him to hold on so he can check the data personally. He's genuinely curious now, half expecting to see some god-tier stats from the student who took so long. But as he looks at the screen, his eyes widen in pure, unadulterated shock. Whatever he's seeing on that holographic panel is clearly not what he was expecting from a supposed hidden gem. The results are in Strength 2, Agility 2, Intelligence 2, and Vitality 3. Zio Lin's total attributes add up to a pathetic 9 points, which is lower than anyone could have imagined. Chin Chuan grits his teeth, staring at the screen in utter disbelief. He can't wrap his head around how someone could possibly have single-digit stats in this day and age. This dude literally facepalms, laughing at how absolutely trash the results are. He's never seen stats this low in his entire career at Dawn Academy and doesn't hold back his mockery. Zio Lin hangs his head in shame as the instructor shreds his pride, calling him a complete waste of space. Our boy is now officially the biggest failure in the Academy's history. The instructor sighs, totally done with this kid. He's already written Zio Lin off as dead weight, convinced he won't even survive the very first trial of the school year. Chin Chuan turns his back, casually labeling Zio Lin a total loser. Our boy stands there in silence, the weight of the instructor's words hanging heavy in the cold, high-tech air. Fragmented memories of being called trash by everyone in his life flood his mind. It seems no matter where he goes, this guy just can't escape the same painful labels. He grits his teeth, haunted by the word trash echoing from his childhood into adulthood. It's a bitter pill to swallow, especially when he's just trying to survive this nightmare. Zio Lin clenches his fist as his eyes glow with a faint, purple light. He wonders if he's truly stuck with this pathetic label even in a literal hellhole like this. The instructor holds up a gold ID tag, declaring that giving it to someone with such low stats is a complete waste. He practically hands over a death sentence with it. Not letting this instructor ramble on for another second, Xiao-Lin reached out to end it all. He was sick and tired of hearing this same old song. Snatching the card right out of the instructor's hand before Qin Chuan could even blink, Xiao-Lin caught it with a gaze full of pure determination. He might be weak now, but he wasn't about to give up that easily. Standing tall, Xiao-Lin declares that a single number won't decide his future. He's going to face the trial himself, no matter how much the instructor tries to look down. Qin Chuan smirks at his stubbornness, telling him to at least try not to piss his pants in terror. He's curious to see how reality will eventually smack this weakling down. A curious student asks about the talented students mentioned, wondering how the academy separates the geniuses from the rest. The atmosphere in the hall remains tense and uncertain. Qin Chuan explains that the lucky ones blessed by the heavens are destined to be strong. These geniuses have a guaranteed ticket to surviving and thriving in the dangerous new world. As for the rest of them, they just need to focus on surviving the entrance exam. The crowd looks discouraged, realizing most of them are probably just seen as expandable fodder. Gu Xiaoyu speaks up, reminding the instructor about the promise of wealth and power. She's remarkably calm, her gaze fixed on the man who holds their lives in his hands. Adjusting her glasses, she demands to know the actual price they have to pay for such rewards. This girl clearly isn't blinded by the flashy promises and wants the truth. Qin Chuan recognizes her as the student with the highest attributes in the group. He explains that credits are the academy's currency and can be traded for anything they desire. Gu Xiaoyu simply nods, absorbing the information with a cold, logical expression. She's already treating this academy like a game where she needs to calculate every move to win. Xiao-Lin watches her from behind, impressed by her elegance and high stats. He realizes the gap between them is massive, especially since the instructor treats her with such respect. Qin Chuan tells everyone to mentally chant check attributes to see their status windows. It's the standard RPG mechanic, but here, the numbers literally mean the difference between life and death. Following the instructions, Xiao-Lin holds up his ID tag as it begins to glow. He's anxious to see his full profile, even if he already knows the stats are terrible. His status window appears, showing his pathetic stats and a remaining lifespan of 60 years. He freezes in horror as he reads the warning that every death deducts 10 years. The entire room erupts in panic as students realize their lives are literally on the line. The idea of measuring lifespan like a currency is too much for many to handle. Suddenly, a sharp beeping sound rings in Xiao-Lin's ears, catching him completely off guard. His teal eyes widen as he senses something strange happening within the academy system. A special notification pops up, announcing that abnormal fluctuations have been detected. It seems the system has found something hidden deep within our boy that even the instructors missed. Xiao-Lin freezes as purple energy swirls all around him. Our boy can't believe it. The guy everyone called a loser just awakened some serious power out of nowhere. He's totally losing it, his head spinning while staring at the system notification. This is exactly what he needed to survive, but it's honestly a lot to take in right now. Xiao-Lin looks around nervously, realizing that he's the only one who can hear the strange system notifications. Even the sharp-eyed instructor Qin Chuan seems completely oblivious to what's happening right now. A holographic window floats before him, but the system is struggling to identify the new power. Both the talent's name and its level are listed as unknown with no match in the database. The detailed analysis reveals a passive effect that boosts learning efficiency by 100%. It even grants an active ability to replicate skills once a week, making it incredibly versatile for survival. Since this power has no precedent, the system grants Xiao-Lin naming rights. He ponders for a moment, weighing the importance of a name that truly reflects his unique learning and replication abilities. Our boy narrows his eyes with a newfound sense of purpose, deciding to keep things simple and direct. He's done being the loser and is ready to embrace whatever this new gift offers. Bathed in a vibrant purple aura, Xiao Lin strikes a confident pose as he finalizes his decision. He chooses the name Academic Prodigy, a perfect fit for a guy who masters everything instantly. The system processes his input, officially registering the talent as Academic Prodigy at level 1. It then begins a final evaluation to determine exactly how powerful this new talent actually is. The screen flashes with a massive SS rank, confirming that Xiao Lin has awakened one of the highest tiers of power possible. Our boy stands tall, finally feeling like he belongs here. In a close-up of his teal eyes, you can see the flicker of pure determination and excitement. This is the turning point he needed to flip the script on everyone who mocked him. Xiao Lin reflects on how even someone as strong as Qin Chuan couldn't sniff out his hidden talent. Meanwhile, the instructor continues to berate the other students who are shivering in fear. He stares at the notification in disbelief, the words SS rank talent finally sinking in. This is the kind of power that people in this world would kill for, and it's all his. With a smirk and a fierce gaze, Xiao Lin feels ready to take on the world. This hidden talent is his ultimate trump card, and he's going to use it to survive. The spiky-haired guy is absolutely losing it, frantically questioning the instructor. He only has 9 years of life left, but the rules state a single death costs 10. That means he'd be game over before he even gets a chance to start. Instructor Qin Chuan, the battle-scarred man, is not the patient type. He socks our boy right in the head, calling the students idiots for complaining about the rules of their new life here. Qin Chuan leans in close, laying out the cold, hard price. If he dies just once, his lifespan hits 0 and he'll vanish for good. This isn't some game, it's a literal death sentence. But there is a catch. Here, life is a resource. Finish missions, get stronger, and you can actually buy more years. It is a high-stakes economy where your heartbeat is the currency. Watching this unfold, Xiao Lin is left reeling. He was just a low-level game booster, and now he's trapped in a place where his literal life is being measured and bartered by the second. The Academy promises a path to changing your destiny. Qin Chuan paints a picture of absolute power, showing what they can become if they actually survive the brutal training that lies ahead. It is not just about muscles. Knowledge, treasure, and a longer life are all waiting for those who can climb the ranks. The rewards are just as massive as the risks involved. Qin Chuan even mentions immortality. With enough credits and points, you could live forever. He points toward a cosmic future that seems impossible for a guy with trash stats like Xiao Lin. Gu Xiaoyu, the elegant girl with glasses, finally speaks up. She wants to know if these bizarre rules only work inside the academy or if they will apply everywhere else too. The instructor confirms the bad news. Once you are a student here, the law applies everywhere, even back on Earth. There is no escaping the system once you have been chosen. Enough talking. Qin Chuan announces that the entrance exam is starting right now. The freshmen look around nervously, realizing there is no way out but to face whatever is coming next. He orders everyone to stay exactly where they are. Raising his hand, Qin Chuan prepares to send the entire group into their first trial, his voice booming through the futuristic hall. The teleportation sequence begins. Huge glowing panels line the walls as the countdown starts, signaling the transition from the safety of the academy to the extreme dangers of the trial zone. Gu Xiaoyu stands firm as the timer hits 3. While the other students are visibly panicking, she remains perfectly calm, ready to prove why she is the top-ranked freshman in the batch. Xiao Lin grits his teeth, looking determined. He knows he is the weakest person here, but he is not ready to lose his remaining years without putting up a real fight first. In a flash of purple energy, the hall erupts. The teleportation magic takes hold, whisking all 200 students away to a mysterious and deadly forest known as the Goblin Nest. Left alone in the empty hall, Qin Chuan sighs in frustration. He is worried that this batch of trash freshmen will ruin his instructor evaluation score. Talk about having some bad luck. But just as he's wondering if anyone can truly defy the odds, a sudden burst of laughter from behind makes him spin around. Another instructor walks in, casually puffing on a cigar. He calls out to old Qin, clearly in a much better mood than our grumpy instructor after seeing his own student stats. This new guy is thrilled because his class produced an A-rank and a B-rank student. He is basically bragging, thinking he has landed the best batch of the year without any effort. Chin Chuan brushes him off, mentioning his own genius with over 40 stats. They start gossiping about the legendary SS rank freshman rumored to have appeared in the Eagle Nation last year. But Chin Chuan quickly dismisses the rumors. He claims that SS rank talents are just a myth with no real record, and even S ranks are rare enough to count on one hand. Meanwhile, the students land deep inside the goblin nest. The atmosphere is creepy, with twisted trees and a foul stench that makes several of the freshmen immediately start to gag. Zio Lin covers his nose, looking completely disgusted. The stench is overwhelming, making him realize this world is way more real than any video game he's ever played. Right then, a blue system screen flickers to life right in front of him. Our boy locks in, ready to check his mission and see if his talent actually works. Mission details pop up for the entrance exam. Zio Lin is in the goblin nest and must escape within 1 hour. He can also hunt 5 goblins or their king. A special freshman care package is distributed to everyone. Inside is a random weapon to help them survive the forest. Zio Lin waits to see what kind of gear he will get. A sudden system notice appears with some incredible news. It turns out there is no death penalty for this specific exam, meaning their precious lifespan will not be deducted if they die. Hearing the good news, the other students start to cheer. They are relieved that they can take risks without losing years of their lives, allowing them to finally relax and focus. Zio Lin taps the holographic screen to open his care package. He ends up acquiring a novice wand, an F-rank magic weapon that comes with a basic skill called Energy Orb. As he takes hold of the staff, the system notifies him that he has already unlocked basic wand mastery. It looks like his life in the academy is officially starting now. Zio Lin examines his new wand, thinking about how much this place feels like the games he used to play. It is all about building skills and earning experience points from here. He narrows his eyes, feeling more determined than ever. If this world follows game logic, he might just have a massive advantage over the geniuses who have never gamed before. Zio Lin decides to give the weapon a test run. He swings the wand sharply, causing purple sparks to fly as the staff hums with magical energy, ready for a fight. A powerful magical discharge strikes the ground with a loud blast. Zio Lin is testing his limits, seeing exactly how much force a basic novice wand like this can actually produce. Smoke and vapor rise from the impact site as the solid stone ground cracks. It is a decent display of power, but using magic clearly leaves a visible mark on the environment. To his surprise, just using the weapon grants him 2 mastery experience points. Zio Lin smirks, realizing that he can actually grind his way to the top just by practicing alone. With his SS rank academic prodigy talent, his skills will level up twice as fast. He raises the staff, feeling confident that he will outpace every other student in the class. But his confidence is instantly shattered as a sudden wave of pain hits him, making him groan in agony. It seems things aren't going nearly as smoothly as he thought. Zio Lin clutches his head in frustration as an error pops up. His mana pool is way too small to cast spells, which makes the novice wand practically useless for him. Nearby, a muscular bully named Wang Dalin cheers after unlocking heavy sword mastery. Zio Lin watches him, realizing that simple physical weapons might actually be the key to gaining experience. He observes the other students trying out their gear. Grinding here will be tough, though, since the time limit and stamina drain make it impossible to stay in one safe spot. Looking at his useless wand, Zio Lin decides he needs a physical weapon instead. He needs something that matches his stats and lets him maximize his insane SS rank leveling advantage. Right then, Gu Zioyu approaches him, asking if he is willing to trade weapons. She looks at his magic wand with a very specific and focused interest. She explains that she knows casting spells requires mental power and mana. Since she has high intelligence stats, she realizes that magic is the only real choice for her. Gu Zioyu bluntly tells him that the wand would suit her better, implying he is not a good fit for it. She is definitely a direct and no-nonsense type of girl. Zio Lin recognizes her as the top student from the earlier test. He introduces himself with a calm smile, curious about why this elite girl would want to deal with him. Gu Zioyu does not waste any time and asks him again about the trade. She is focused purely on efficiency, wanting to optimize her equipment before they head deeper into danger. Xiao Lin hands over the wand and gives her a quick heads-up. He warns her that she'll need to aim properly if she wants her spells to actually hit anything. In exchange, he finally grabs a short sword. Xiao Lin smirks as he grips the hilt. This physical weapon feels way more natural and effective for his current build. Xiao Lin realizes that to clear this entrance exam smoothly, he really needs a reliable teammate. He turns his attention back to Gu Xiaoyu, the top student with the insane stats. He flashes a confident smile and calls out to Gu Xiaoyu, asking if she would like to team up. It seems like a smart move given their newly traded equipment. But before she can answer, the muscular bully Wang Dalin barges in. He completely ignores Xiao Lin and tries to hit on Gu Xiaoyu, asking her to work with him instead. This guy is a total meathead, bragging about his physical stats being over 10 points. He clearly thinks his brute strength is all he needs to win over the class genius. Wang Dalin mocks Xiao Lin, calling him an unreliable pretty boy. Our boy just scoffs in the background, knowing that high stats do not mean much without a brain to use them. Gu Xiaoyu stares back with a cold, expressionless gaze. She does not look even slightly impressed by this guy's boasting or his supposed high physical stats. Without a second thought, she turns around and walks away, giving him a blunt rejection. Gu Xiaoyu has zero interest in teaming up with someone as tactless as Wang Dalin. The other students nearby start snickering, making fun of the bully for getting rejected so easily. Hearing their laughter, Wang Dalin's face twists with pure, unadulterated rage. He is absolutely fuming, his entire body shaking as he tries to process the humiliation. This guy clearly has a massive ego and does not handle rejection very well. Looking for a target to vent his frustration, Wang Dalin turns his hateful gaze toward Xiao Lin. Our boy just stands there, looking pretty confused about the sudden shift in mood. The bully suddenly snaps, lunging forward to grab Xiao Lin by the collar. He shouts, asking what the hell he is looking at, clearly ready to start a fight right here. Wang Dalin continues to bark insults, calling Xiao Lin a piece of trash with single-digit stats. He mocks him for even pretending to study his weapon, labeling him as dead weight. Despite the aggression, Xiao Lin stays cool. He tells the bully that success depends on their own abilities and suggests he save his stamina for the actual mission instead of fighting. This just pisses Dalin off even more. He pulls Xiao Lin's shirt tighter, shouting that he is going to show him exactly what his high-stat abilities can do right now. Instead of panicking, Xiao Lin just lets out a small laugh. He looks completely unfazed by the threat, almost as if he knows something that the angry meathead does not. He gives the bully a cold, knowing smirk. Xiao Lin tells him that he will not even get a chance to show off his abilities, just as a hidden danger approaches. Wang Dalin was busy acting like a tough guy when a green goblin suddenly leaped from the shadows. The dude barely had time to react before those nasty claws were right over him. A goblin lunges from the bushes, catching Wang Dalin off guard. He screams as the monster's claws tear through the air, barely missing him by a few inches. Wang Dalin curses, his face twisted in frustration. He can't believe he actually let a low-level monster get the drop on him like that in front of everyone. The goblin leaps through the air, eyes glowing with malice. It's relentless, determined to take down the loud-mouthed freshman before he can even pull out his weapon. Recovering quickly, Wang Dalin swings his massive sword. He lets out a roar of effort as his heavy blade slices clean through the creature's neck in one motion. Breathing heavily, the guy stands over the dead monster. He's shaken, realizing that one mistake in this simulation could actually cost him his life in the real world. This dude immediately starts blaming Xiao Lin, accusing him of just standing there to watch him fail. He's clearly embarrassed by his own clumsy performance during the ambush. Suddenly, Wang Dalin freezes as he hears more rustling in the bushes. His eyes widen, realizing that one goblin was just the tip of the iceberg for them. A whole pack of the green creeps emerges from the shadows. They're everywhere, surrounding the students with toothy grins and sharp weapons, ready to finish the job. Panic spreads like wildfire through the group. The freshmen start screaming, realizing their survival trial just turned into a literal bloodbath as more and more goblins appear. The goblins don't hesitate, charging into the fray with brutal efficiency. One girl desperately tries to defend herself, but she's quickly being overwhelmed by the sheer numbers. One student gets slashed across the chest, his body dissolving into digital fragments. The simulation makes every hit feel agonizingly real, even if it's all just data. It's a total slaughter out there. The field is littered with dead students as the monsters continue their relentless assault on the remaining survivors without any mercy. Zio Lin blocks a goblin's strike, gritting his teeth as the impact vibrates through his arm. He realizes everything, the pain and the smell, is terrifyingly real right now. He spots a girl cornered and prepares to rescue her, but suddenly, a streak of purple magic whistles past the goblin's head, taking it down before it can lay a finger on her. Gu Zioyu steps up, her staff crackling with purple electricity. She looks calm and composed, ready to show everyone why she's the top-ranked student in the whole class. Covered in goblin blood, Zio Lin looks around the chaotic battlefield. He knows they can't stay out in the open much longer or they're all going to die. Our boy realizes that even with weapons, inexperienced people are just sitting ducks. This isn't just a simple game, it's a brutal and unforgiving test of survival. One student points toward a nearby cave, shouting for everyone to run. It looks like the goblins are weirdly hesitant to follow any of them inside that cavern. Zio Lin watches as the others scramble for safety, his mind racing. He needs to figure out the tactical logic behind this safe zone immediately to survive. He ducks into the cavern, realizing it's safe for now. But his gamer instincts tell him that no safe zone lasts forever in a trial like this. A system window pops up, showing a protection timer with less than 30 minutes left. They're safe, but they're also on a very tight clock for now. Gripping his sword tight, the dude tries to slow his racing heart. He needs to stay calm and analyze the situation like a pro gamer would do. Zio Lin stares into the darkness, his expression hardening. He refuses to just sit around and wait for the monsters to finish them all off later today. Kim Dane starts swinging his sword against the cave wall, focusing on his form. Turns out, the system actually rewards his hard work with some sweet experience points. He realizes he can grind his mastery level right here in safety. Since his stats are trash, our boy needs every bit of technical skill before the timer hits 0. The cave's protection is about to expire, leaving the students with only 2 minutes of safety. Panic immediately sets in as they realize their temporary sanctuary is about to vanish. Freshmen argue desperately, claiming the mission is impossible due to the monster's insane speed. They're convinced they'll be slaughtered the second they step back out into the simulation. Gu Zioyu sits quietly against the rock wall, appearing surprisingly calm compared to the others. Even with dirt on her uniform, she maintains an air of quiet, cold intelligence. While the others waste time worrying, Zio Lin continues his repetitive sword practice against the cave walls. He's determined to squeeze every last drop of experience out of these final minutes. Our boy is completely exhausted, sweat pouring down his face as he pushes his body to the limit. He knows his low stats mean he has to work twice as hard. Gu Zioyu watches him, bluntly stating that his grinding is pointless since leveling a skill usually takes an hour. She doesn't realize he has a hidden advantage up his sleeve. Zio Lin is impressed by her analytical nature, acknowledging that she's incredibly smart. He keeps his thoughts to himself as he prepares to prove her calculations wrong in record time. Watching the beautiful waifu adjust her glasses, he fully understands that reaching level 2 will take at least an hour, a luxury they simply don't have right now. But that's only the case for ordinary people. He just grins, knowing his academic prodigy talent gives him a massive boost. While she thinks he's wasting effort, he's actually moments away from achieving the impossible for a freshman. The system notification confirms he's on the verge of hitting level 2 in sword mastery. His relentless training is finally paying off, giving him a much-needed edge in the upcoming battle. Zio Lin shifts the conversation, asking Gu Zioyu if she's discovered any patterns while observing the goblins outside. He values her high intelligence and knows she hasn't just been sitting idle. She looks surprised that he noticed her surveillance work, her eyes widening slightly behind her round frames. It seems she didn't expect the trash student to be so observant during the chaos. He casually mentions that it's just like playing a video game where checking the guide is essential. Gu Zioyu simply stares back, clearly not the type to waste time on gaming. The dude analyzes the enemy's weaknesses, noting their low F-rank stats and fragile defenses. He realizes the key to victory is simply overcoming fear and targeting the back of their heads. He tells her the mission isn't actually that difficult if they stay calm. Looking at the trembling students nearby, he sighs, knowing fear is the real enemy holding everyone back. One of the girls is shivering uncontrollably, completely paralyzed by the horror of the simulation. Without courage, these students have zero chance of surviving the next wave of goblin attacks. With the protection timer ticking down to 0, the duo prepares to head out. They both agree that hiding forever won't help them secure the credits they need to survive. Their path is suddenly blocked by a massive student with a permanent scowl on his face. Wang Dalin looks ready to assert his dominance over anyone he considers weaker than himself. This meathead ignores the protagonist entirely, demanding that Gu Zioyu team up with him instead. He rudely calls Zio Lin dead weight, convinced that raw stats are the only thing that matters. Gu Zioyu doesn't look interested in his offer, pointing out that the real challenge and rewards lie with the boss. She's already looking past the basic mission toward the Goblin King. Wang Dalin snaps at her, calling the boss an optional mission that hasn't even appeared yet. He thinks she's being delusional for wanting to fight something that hasn't even spawned. Zio Lin speaks up, explaining that boss spawns usually have specific trigger mechanisms in these simulations. He's treating this whole life-or-death situation like a meticulous strategy guide for a game. Gu Zioyu follows his logic, ruling out time and student counts as potential triggers. They both agree that the most likely catalyst for the boss appearing is the number of kills. Our boy explains that clearing out enough mobs will force the Goblin King to spawn. While the rest of the group is shaking, he's already busy planning out the big boss fight. This archer girl is terrified at the thought of facing a king. She thinks the regular goblins are bad enough, but our boy is about to give them all a reality check. Zio Lin reminds everyone that there's no penalty for failing, but the rewards for winning are massive. He tells them that just running away now would be a huge waste of potential. Our boy asks the group if they really think they'll get another zero-risk chance like this once they're officially enrolled. He encourages them to go all out and earn those extra credits. The other students start to realize he's right. They don't have a choice anyway since the cave's protection is about to expire, making it a perfect time to risk everything for survival. Suddenly, Wang Dalin snaps, yelling at the group for even listening to a weakling. He starts bragging about his initial stats being 32, claiming he's the one who will actually carry them. Gu Zioyu isn't impressed at all, bluntly stating that 32 points is only slightly better than a normal person. She asks the arrogant bully exactly how high his stats are supposed to be. Pushing up her glasses, she calmly reveals her own score of 46 points. The revelation immediately shuts everyone up as they process the massive gap between her and the rest of the class. This girl doesn't hold back, telling Wang Dalin to kindly shut his mouth. She stands tall with her magic staff, clearly asserting her position as the most powerful person in the group. The bully is completely speechless, breaking out into a cold sweat. Even the other students are shocked to learn her stats are more than 5 times higher than their own pathetic scores. Zio Lin is genuinely surprised, realizing her total points are even higher than he originally calculated. He stares at her in awe, finally understanding the true power of a genius-level freshman. Gu Zioyu takes charge, ordering anyone who wants to pass and get bonus rewards to follow her lead. She emphasizes that working together is the only way to finish their missions efficiently. She assigns Wang Dalin the role of the tank, telling him to draw the goblin's aggro in the front. Despite his earlier arrogance, he can only grumble and agree to her plan. The archer girl and other ranged users are told to provide support from the back. They form simple 3-person squads, preparing to take down as many goblins as they can possibly find. Turning to the protagonist, she waits to hear his role in her strategic formation. Gu Zioyu seems curious to see how a trash student plans to contribute to the upcoming boss fight. Zio Lin offers to handle roaming and interference, picking off any low-health monsters that try to run away. He knows his stats are too low for a direct head-on confrontation right now. With a solid plan in place, the group finally steps out of the cave together. They're no longer a panicked mob, but a somewhat organized team ready to hunt some goblins for credits. Wang Dalin leads the charge, letting out a roar as he swings his massive blade at the first monster he sees. He's eager to prove he isn't completely useless despite his stats. The archer girl fires her first shot, her hands still trembling as she aims for the green creeps. She's determined to help the group after being saved by Xiao Lin earlier in the trial. A pack of goblins rushes toward them with terrifying speed, their glowing eyes fixed on the new targets. The students grit their teeth, knowing they can't afford to let their formation break now. One of the monsters leaps through the air, aiming its sharp claws directly at the archer girl's face. She screams in terror, unable to move out of the way of the sudden attack. In a flash, Xiao Lin intervenes with a powerful strike, his eye glowing with intense focus. He's perfectly timed his movements to intercept the beast before it can land its lethal blow. With a single, clean slash, our boy takes down his first target of the mission. The system interface pops up to confirm his kill, boosting his confidence as the battle truly begins. The archer girl thanks him breathlessly, but Xiao Lin tells her not to get distracted yet. He reminds himself to conserve stamina and only look for perfect opportunities to land killing blows. He moves like a blur, slashing through another goblin as the kill counter ticks up to 2. Every movement he makes is precise, minimizing wasted effort while maximizing the damage he deals. This guy hits 3 kills, dropping another monster with a clean strike. He's totally in the zone now, exploiting their blind spots exactly like he planned from the very beginning. That's 4 in record time. Our boy is proving that brains can actually beat raw stats, and his efficiency is finally starting to draw some serious attention from the crowd. The other students are starting to notice how efficiently the protagonist is fighting. While some wonder how he can be so precise with such low stats, Wang Dalin just scoffs, calling it nothing but pure luck. Gu Xiaoyu is far more observant, realizing that our boy's movements are actually calculated. She notes that he's intentionally dodging the monster's line of sight and predicting their every move before they even strike. Xiao Lin takes a brief moment to catch his breath as his training finally yields results. The system confirms he's earned enough experience to level up his sword mastery, reaching level 2 in record time. He remembers the 2 months he spent grinding in a VR simulator before coming to the academy. All those hours of repetitive practice were worth it, giving him the precision he needs to survive this trial. A new prompt appears on his system interface, signaling that his progress hasn't gone unnoticed. He's reached a significant milestone that the Academy's automated tracking system is now preparing to acknowledge with a special reward. The system completes a database scan and announces that he's the first freshman in this batch to level up a skill. As a reward for his dedication, he's granted a free skill suited to his current capabilities. A purple aura erupts around him as the heavy slash skill is officially unlocked. Even with his low base stats, having an active combat skill gives him a much-needed increase in lethality against the green pests. The skill requires 11 points of strength and allows him to unleash a massive, concentrated strike. However, the system warns him that using it repeatedly will drain his limited stamina far too quickly for comfort. Feeling more confident than ever, Xiao Lin grins as he realizes he only needs 1 more kill. He's determined to complete his first optional mission and secure those extra credits before the situation gets even worse. He lunges forward, his blade glowing with energy as he delivers a finishing blow to a nearby monster. Every strike he makes is efficient, focused on ending the fight as quickly and cleanly as possible. With the final goblin down, the system announces that he's officially completed his first optional mission. His strategy of focusing on technical mastery over raw power is already paying off better than anyone expected. Xiao Lin relaxes slightly, resting his sword on his shoulder as he celebrates his first major success. Suddenly, a strange, static sound fills the air, signaling that the simulation is about to enter its next phase. The remaining goblins begin to vanish into blue pixels right in front of the confused students. Even the arrogant Wang Dalin is left bewildered, unable to understand why their targets are suddenly disappearing into thin air. The bully yells in frustration, demanding to know what's happening as the glitches in the simulation grow louder. It's clear that the trial is no longer following the standard patterns they were briefed on earlier. A system announcement blares across the field, stating that a hidden condition has been met now that the population is reduced. The freshmen freeze in terror as they realize they've accidentally triggered the boss. Birds scatter from the forest canopy as a massive shadow looms over the trees, casting the entire area into darkness. The arrival of the Goblin King is preceded by an overwhelming aura of pure malice. Zio Lin stands his ground, looking up at the towering monstrosity that stepped out into the clearing. The real battle for survival is about to begin as the king prepares to crush the tiny intruders. Just when things couldn't get worse, the Goblin King made his entrance. This towering behemoth loomed over the freshmen, his glowing yellow eyes locking onto his next targets with pure hunger. He let out a bone-chilling roar that shook the very ground. The sheer pressure of his aura felt like a physical weight, pinning the terrified students where they stood in shock. The resulting shockwave was so intense that the students had to cover their ears. It felt like their eardrums were on the verge of bursting from the sheer volume of it. This archer girl gritted her teeth, barely able to keep her balance amidst the chaos. The power gap between them and this boss was clearly on a whole different level. Zio Lin and Gu Zioyu stood firm, their eyes fixed on the massive threat ahead. Even with her superior stats, this girl looked visibly shaken by the monster's overwhelming presence. A system window popped up, confirming their worst fears. This wasn't just another mob, it was the dungeon boss, the Goblin King, with a massive health bar to match his size. His face was a mask of pure malice, framed by massive horns and sharp tusks. One look into those glowing eyes was enough to tell anyone they were in deep trouble. Zio Lin noticed something strange. All the other goblins had vanished into digital pixels. The boss was clearing the stage, and now it was just them against the king in this arena. The students stared in horror at the massive HP bar hovering above the monster. It was longer than their own lifespans, making victory seem like an impossible dream for this class. One student completely lost his cool and bolted, shouting that he was out. Zio Lin tried to stop him, but the guy was too consumed by panic to even listen. Our boy quickly analyzed the situation, noticing a critical trait of these monsters. Their field of vision was narrow, meaning there was a slight chance to exploit their blind spots. However, that advantage was balanced out by their incredible sense of smell and hearing. These weren't just dumb beasts, they were apex predators designed to hunt down any intruders they found. The coward's frantic movements immediately drew the Goblin King's aggro. The giant loomed over him, preparing to turn the fleeing student into a permanent part of the dungeon's blood-soaked floor. Right then, Wang Dalin stepped up, trying to rally the group with his typical bravado. He shouted for everyone to stop being afraid and just overwhelm the beast with numbers. Feeling cocky, the muscular student charged forward with his sword raised high. He aimed a heavy blow at the boss, thinking his high stats would be enough to secure a win. But the Goblin King's glowing eye tracked his every move with terrifying precision. The monster wasn't even bothered by the tiny human's attempt at an attack, simply waiting for the moment. In a flash of movement, the boss landed a brutal kick right into the dude's stomach. The impact was sickeningly loud, completely cutting off Wang Dalin's aggressive and reckless charge. A massive shockwave erupted from the point of contact, tearing through the air. The sheer force behind that single strike was enough to shake the entire forest to its roots. Wang Dalin let out a choked cry as he was sent tumbling backward. His sword slipped from his grip, useless against the overwhelming power of the dungeon's terrifying master. As he hit the ground, his body began to dissolve into blue digital pixels. This guy was out of the trial, leaving the rest of the class even more vulnerable. Panic spread like wildfire as the students realized their strongest fighter was gone in a single hit. They began to scatter, screaming for their lives as the formation completely collapsed. The Goblin King let out another deafening roar, clearly enjoying the chaos. He lunged at another group of terrified students, determined to finish what he started with this fresh batch. With one massive foot, the monster crushed another student into the earth. There was no mercy here. The simulation was proving to be a brutal lesson in true survival. The green giant swung his massive club, sending students flying like ragdolls. It was a total slaughter, and no one seemed strong enough to stop this monster's rampage. Even the top archer girl got caught in the blast, her body being tossed aside by the force. The whole trial was quickly turning into a total nightmare. The Goblin King towers over the archer girl, his massive frame casting a shadow of certain death. Trapped on the ground, the student can only stare in sheer terror as the monster prepares to deliver the final blow. Right at that moment, an eerie purple blast strikes the boss's arm. The sudden attack catches the boss off guard, leaving it with an expression that is anything but happy. Watching the system from afar, the boss's massive health bar remains a spine-chilling sight. The lucky archer scrambles to her feet, desperately trying to retreat out of the monster's reach before it's too late. Gu Zioyu grits her teeth in frustration after her magic only manages to hit its arm. She realizes that no matter how high her stats are, landing a decisive blow on a giant that moves this fast is nearly impossible. She quickly analyzed the mechanics of the fight, noting that hitting the monster's limbs wouldn't do much damage. To truly take it down, she needed to land a direct hit on its vitals. The girl's mind raced back to her original strategy. She had hoped the others would tank the damage while she provided cover, but reality was proving to be far more brutal. The formation had completely collapsed as the other students fled for their lives. Gu Zioyu was left alone on the battlefield, facing the full, terrifying might of the Goblin King by herself. With every heavy footstep, the monster drew closer to the cornered student. Her plan had been way too idealistic, and now she was paying the price for underestimating the dungeon's true difficulty. The Goblin King raised his massive club, his yellow eyes glowing with a predatory hunger. Gu Zioyu stood her ground, but her trembling hands betrayed the sheer terror she was currently feeling. Just as the blow was about to land, Zio Lin's voice rang out across the field. He screamed for her to run, refusing to let the class's star student get crushed like a bug. Our boy didn't just shout, he leaped into action with his eyes glowing with a mysterious blue light. He was moving faster than ever, ready to intercept the boss's lethal and crushing attack. The Goblin King let out a deafening roar, clearly annoyed by the tiny human's interference. He gnashed his teeth and swung his club, determined to sweep away anyone who stood against him. Zio Lin's sword clashed against the monster's weapon, sending sparks flying everywhere. He wasn't trying to overpower the beast, he was simply buying time for Gu Zioyu to escape the kill zone. As he landed, Zio Lin quickly explained the boss's behavior to the others. He had realized that the king's attack pattern prioritized whichever target was currently closest to its massive body. He took command, shouting tactical orders to the scattered students. He told them to stop panicking and focus on kiting the monster to create a brief opening for a coordinated counterattack. Hearing his firm voice, the archer girl finally managed to pull herself together. She nodded, promising to try her best to draw the beast's attention and keep it busy for a while. Zio Lin then turned to Gu Zioyu, telling her to use her high attack power to chip away at the monster's health. They finally had a real plan to survive this simulation. The two girls coordinated their attacks, with the archer preparing her bow and Gu Zioyu channeling her magic. For the first time, there was a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. A barrage of arrows and magical blasts slammed into the Goblin King's chest. His health bar finally started to move, proving that the giant was indeed mortal and could be defeated. As the monster's club slammed harmlessly into the ground, the archer girl let out a cheer. It actually seemed like their teamwork was starting to work against the overwhelming power of the boss. Zio Lin urged them to keep up the pressure, knowing they couldn't afford to let the beast recover. They had found a rhythm, but the fight was still far from over. Enraged by the persistent attacks, the Goblin King let out another terrifying roar. He wasn't just a mindless monster, he was a king, and he wasn't about to be brought down easily. The behemoth raised his massive fists, gathering his strength for a devastating ground slam. The air around him seemed to vibrate with pure, destructive energy as he prepared his most powerful move. The boss slammed the ground, sending a massive shockwave ripping through the dirt. Debris flew everywhere as the impact tore the earth apart, completely shattering their formation in an instant. Zio Lin tried to shout a warning, but he was too slow. The blast caught the archer girl full force, sending her flying as the rest of the team got wiped out. The Goblin King stood tall, a massive green mountain of muscle and malice. With his long black braids and glowing yellow eyes, he looked ready to crush anyone left on the battlefield. Now only Xiao Lin and Gu Xiaoyu remained to face the boss. They stood side by side amidst the ruins of their formation, two freshmen against a monster that had just decimated their entire class. Gu Xiaoyu looked at our boy, her voice trembling slightly as she asked if they actually had a chance. With everyone else gone, the odds of winning seemed almost non-existent to her. Xiao Lin didn't panic, though he almost used gamer terms by accident. He asked how much mental power she had left, needing to know exactly how many energy orbs she could still fire. This girl gripped her staff tight, admitting she could only manage 2 more shots at most. It wasn't much, but in a life-or-death situation like this, it would have to be enough. He told her that hitting the head deals critical damage, but she worried about the beast's speed. Accuracy was a major issue when their target was moving like a blur of green fury. Xiao Lin just smirked, his eyes narrowing with a newfound confidence. If the monster was too fast to hit, he would simply find a way to lock it down and make it stay still. Right then, he activated his hidden talent, Academic Prodigy. His eyes began to glow with an intense blue light as the system interface appeared, signaling that he was finally playing for real. The system scanned the boss, detecting its signature shockwave skill. This F-rank ability dealt massive impact damage and could stun anyone within range for a full 3 seconds, making it incredibly dangerous. He thought back to his past, remembering how everyone used to call him a worthless loser. Back then, his unique talent was seen as completely useless, but everything was about to change. With dark energy swirling around him, Xiao Lin declared that this was finally his battlefield. He wasn't just some trash freshman anymore. He was a tactical genius with a world-breaking ability. The system chimed with a successful copy of the Goblin King's shockwave skill. With the boss's own power now at his disposal, our boy prepared to turn the tide of this encounter. Xiao Lin watches the Goblin King with a cold, blue light in his eyes. He's not just looking for an opening, he's analyzing the boss's every movement with a gamer's precision. The giant monster raises its arms, gathering massive energy for a shockwave attack. Xiao Lin doesn't flinch, charging straight toward the danger as the ground begins to crack. He calculates the timing perfectly, knowing the Goblin King's height makes its wind-up slower than his own. Since he copied the skill earlier, he's confident his version will activate first. A system window flickers to life as Xiao Lin triggers the copy shockwave skill. His pupils dilate, focusing entirely on the point where he needs to strike to disrupt the boss. The two forces collide midair in a spray of sparks. Xiao Lin's blade meets the Goblin King's brute strength, the impact sending vibrations right up his arms. A massive explosion of light erupts as the interruption succeeds. The Goblin King is caught off guard, its own energy backfiring and sending it reeling. The monster roars in frustration, its body glowing with residual energy as it stumbles back. Its massive frame is momentarily defenseless, creating the opening Xiao Lin was looking for. Xiao Lin jams his sword into the ground to steady himself against the aftershocks. He's panting, the strain of using such a high-level skill clearly taking a toll on his body. He catches his breath for a split second, satisfied that his line of thinking was correct. His mind is already racing through the numbers, keeping track of every strategic advantage. The Goblin King recovers faster than expected, preparing for another strike. Xiao Lin glances at his HUD. The shockwave skill has a 30-second cooldown, and he's still 22 seconds away. The air crackles with purple lightning as the boss prepares a devastating follow-up. A blast of energy ripples through the area, forcing the freshmen to stay on their toes. Gu Xiaoyu stands in the distance, her staff radiating intense power. The Goblin King is being relentlessly bombarded by streaks of magical lightning, as its health bar continues to be steadily chipped away. Even so, she still couldn't believe it, wondering how someone with stats as low as Xiao Lin's could possibly interrupt a boss's skill like that. She was also nearing her absolute limit, struggling to keep her staff steady for one final shot. The Goblin King's health bar is dangerously low, and it's getting desperate. It prepares to bring its massive weight down on the persistent freshman who keeps getting in its way. The boss lifts a giant boulder, ready to crush everything in its path. Xiao Lin is cornered, and his skill cooldown is still stuck at 16 seconds. Seeing no way to dodge, he grits his teeth and decides to tank the hit. He isn't planning to run, he's planning to survive by any means necessary. The boulder smashes down, but Xiao Lin holds his ground, using whatever mana he has left to buffer the impact. Digitized shards of energy spray everywhere as he takes the blow head-on. Gu Xiaoyu screams his name, watching as dust and debris swallow him whole. She's terrified that he didn't make it out of that impact. The smoke begins to thin, revealing the Goblin King standing over the impact zone. It looks victorious for a split second as it surveys the damage. Xiao Lin emerges from the cloud, battered and with a shredded sleeve, but still standing. He signals that he's fine, even as the cooldown timer slowly ticks down to 10 seconds. The boss raises its fists for another shockwave, but Xiao Lin realizes he's drifted too far away. If he doesn't close the gap, the skill won't interrupt the attack. He breaks into a desperate sprint, sliding directly under the monster's center of gravity. He's got 3 seconds left on the clock before he can strike. He grips his hilt with both hands, the steel vibrating as the skill recharges. It's a gamble that needs to pay off right now. The cooldown hits 0, and Xiao Lin unleashes the shockwave at point-blank range. Purple energy flares up, successfully stopping the Goblin King's final desperate attack. The system confirms the activation of copy shockwave once again. The air around them shatters from the force of the point-blank collision. Xiao Lin yells out to Gu Xiaoyu, telling her to take the shot while the boss is stunned and wide open. Gu Xiaoyu doesn't hesitate, channeling every last bit of her magic into her staff. A brilliant beam of light pierces through the air, heading straight for the boss. The attack hits home, and the Goblin King's health bar finally bottoms out. The monster begins to dissolve into blue pixels, its reign of terror over. A series of notifications flood Xiao Lin's vision. The boss is dead, and the optional mission is complete. He stands amidst the digital remains, finally able to let go of the tension. His strength gives out, and his sword clatters to the ground. The adrenaline is fading fast, leaving only total exhaustion. Xiao Lin takes a moment to process the win as Gu Xiaoyu approaches. They actually manage to take down the final boss of the tutorial. He collapses onto the grass, completely spent. His vision starts to blur from the sheer exhaustion of the fight. Gu Xiaoyu looks down at him, her expression a mix of concern and awe. Xiao Lin realizes he won't be able to finish the final mission in this state. The scene shifts to a high-tech briefing room inside the academy. A group of staff members are gathered around a table, reviewing the latest enrollment data. The Minister of Admissions takes a long drag from his cigarette, looking over the freshman test results. He's ready to give his final summary of this year's intake. He notes that 1,360 students have been enrolled across 12 classes. The breakdown shows a wide range of rankings, with over half the students starting at rank F. But the real shock comes next. This year, a total of 15 students achieved the prestigious S-rank evaluation. It's an unusually high number for a single batch. The news sends a ripple of excitement through the room. The instructors can't believe they've landed such a fierce batch of freshmen this year. Wang Dalin leans back with a smug grin, bragging that his class produced 2 of those talented students. An instructor sitting nearby notes that her class has 2 as well, but they only reached B rank. The minister puts out his cigarette, confirming the presence of 13 high-tier, talented students among the group. He thanks everyone for their hard work during the recruitment. Qiu Chuan instructor rests his head on his hand, looking disappointed. It seems his class didn't produce a single standout talent this time around. The minister turns to Qin Chuan, noting that while Class 7 didn't reach the safe zone, they did manage to set 2 school history records. Qin Chuan looks surprised, wondering what kind of records those could be. The Minister of Admissions continues, holding up a finger to drive his point home. He explains that it's unheard of for a single class to produce 2 S-rank students who don't even possess inherent talents. He gestures to the holographic screens behind him, displaying the statistics for Class 7. He reveals the first record. One of those students has broken the highest intelligence stat record for a freshman in the history of the academy. Qin Chuan looks on in total disbelief as the second record is mentioned. It's the polar opposite. the lowest comprehensive stat record ever recorded for a new student in school history. The minister notes that these two records belong to the same two students who earned those S-rank evaluations. This anomaly is so intriguing that even the principal has taken a personal interest in them. Back in the academy halls, the teleportation is complete. Xiao Lin stands among the other survivors, feeling his body instantly heal as his digitized wounds vanish into thin air. His system interface updates with the final mission results. He's officially cleared all 3 tutorial objectives, earning a comprehensive S-rank along with 40 credits and 800 exchange points. Xiao Lin stares at the screen, still a bit dazed from the fight. He clearly remembers blacking out, yet the system shows he somehow completed the first mission of reaching the safe zone. He catches a glimpse of Gu Xiaoyu walking past, surrounded by a faint blue digital glow. He wonders if she was the one who carried him to safety after he collapsed in the cave. Suddenly, a familiar voice calls out his name from down the hall. A student he helped during the goblin attack comes running toward him, her face lit up with relief. She thanks him and Gu Xiaoyu profusely, knowing she wouldn't have secured an A-rank evaluation without their help. She's clearly grateful to have made it through the ordeal. The girl looks down humbly, admitting she felt useless when she was knocked out by the shockwave's aftereffects. She's desperate to know if they actually managed to kill the Goblin King after she went down. Xiao Lin gives her a small, confident smile and confirms that they finished the job. The girl is overjoyed, her faith in their abilities fully rewarded. A sharp grunt from nearby kills the mood. Wang Dalin stands there, looking thoroughly annoyed by Xiao Lin's presence and success. He scoffs, attributing Xiao Lin's survival to nothing more than dumb luck. In his eyes, someone with such garbage stats would have died hundreds of times if they hadn't clung to Gu Xiaoyu's coattails. He shuts his mouth the moment Gu Xiaoyu herself approaches. She walks past him with her usual cold composure, her eyes fixed solely on Xiao Lin. Gu Xiaoyu stops in front of Xiao Lin and adjusts her glasses. She tells him directly that she needs to speak with him alone about the battle they just finished. They move to a quiet corner of the hallway, away from the prying eyes of the other students. The atmosphere between them is quiet but heavy with unsaid questions. Gu Xiaoyu starts by thanking him for his help in the safe zone. Xiao Lin brushes it off with a casual smile, saying it was just a mutually beneficial move to maximize their rewards. She pushes her glasses up, looking him straight in the eye. She knows the truth. Without him interrupting the Goblin King's skill, she never would have found the opening for the final blow. Xiao Lin goes quiet, realizing just how perceptive she is. He can see her mental gears turning, calculating every detail of his performance during the fight. She points out that based on his stat values, it should have been theoretically impossible for him to interrupt a boss like that. She acknowledges he has secrets, but promises to keep them for him if anyone asks. Xiao Lin rubs the back of his neck, offering a sincere thank you. He's relieved she isn't planning to pry into his hidden talent or how he pulled off those moves. Gu Xiaoyu pulls out a nameplate and suggests they add each other as friends. She explains that the smart brain system built into the plates has a convenient communication function. Xiao Lin agrees, and she begins to guide him through the process. She tells him to silently recite the words "smart brain" to pull up his personal interface. He follows her instructions, focusing on the command. Blue digital particles begin to swirl around him as the system responds to his thought. His basic info screen appears, showing his current stats and resources. He's sitting on a decent pile of points, but his attributes are still painfully low across the board. Gu Xiaoyu asks for his student ID to send the request. He glances at his panel and reads out his identification number for her. A friend request notification pops up on his screen a moment later. It's from Gu Xiaoyu, waiting for his confirmation to link their accounts. He taps the accept button, and the system confirms the new connection. It seems he's officially made his first ally in this strange new world. Suddenly, a loud, booming voice echoes through the hall. Qin Chuan stands there with his arms crossed, ordering everyone with an F-rank evaluation to assemble at the entrance immediately. He doesn't go easy on the rest of the students either, telling them to stop standing around. He commands everyone else to open their map navigation and head straight to the central playground. Chin Chuan scans the crowd with a sharp gaze, making sure no one is lagging behind. Xiao Lin and Gu Xiaoyu exchange a quick look as they prepare to move. Xiao Lin gives a short nod and starts walking toward the exit. He's curious about what the academy has planned for them now that the tutorial phase is over. As he walks, Xiao Lin opens his holographic map. He notes that to get to the playground from the public classroom area, they'll have to cut through the courtyard. He steals a glance at Chin Chuan in the distance, wondering about the instructor's motives. He can't tell if Chin Chuan was looking for Gu Xiaoyu because of her S rank, or if he's noticed something about Xiao Lin's performance. They emerge into the sunlight, facing a massive stadium and playground area. Thousands of students are already gathering on the green field under the bright sky. Xiao Lin looks around at the growing crowd, feeling a bit overwhelmed by the sheer number of people. He wonders if having so many people missing from the real world at once will cause some kind of massive commotion. Gu Xiaoyu catches up to him and asks if he's doing okay. He realizes he might have been lost in his own thoughts for a second too long. A voice shouts for everyone to make way, cutting through the chatter. The crowd begins to part as the upperclassmen start to organize the massive assembly. A young man with blue hair leads the way, his expression calm and professional. He instructs the students to stand in their class formations and avoid crowding together. He steps up to a podium, flanked by other high-ranking staff members. A floating blue crystal orbits the stage, casting a soft light over the assembly. He introduces himself with a polite smile as the student council president of the academy. He's the one officially welcoming the new freshmen to their first formal ceremony. Students gather on the playground as a voice announcement echoes through the area. The principal is running late, so the ceremony is starting without him. Suddenly, a thunderous roar shakes the entire academy, drowning out the announcement. Xiao Lin looks up, his sharp eyes narrowing as he senses something massive approaching. The crowd erupts in confusion, students pointing and shouting as the sound grows louder. Everyone is on edge, wondering what could make such a terrifying noise. A gigantic purple dragon descends from the heavens, its massive wings casting a dark shadow over the terrified freshmen. It's a literal beast from legend appearing right before their eyes. Xiao Lin's eyes go wide in disbelief as he stares at the creature. He's stunned to see a real dragon in the flesh, a far cry from anything in his old world. The dragon opens its maw, letting out another bone-rattling roar. Its glowing eyes and sharp teeth make it look like a predator that could wipe them all out in an instant. The sheer presence of the beast is paralyzing. Xiao Lin finds himself unable to take a single step, his body frozen by a deep physiological fear. Beside him, even the brilliant Gu Xiaoyu is visibly shaking, her usual composed demeanor shattered. She stands stiffly, her eyes wide with the same instinctive terror gripping everyone else. The dragon lands with a heavy thud near the staff desk, whipping up a fierce wind. Perched calmly on its back is an elderly man with long white hair and a flowing beard. He hops down with a casual smile, apologizing for the delay. He mentions he had to handle a few things on the way, as if riding a dragon was just a normal commute. This is the principal of Dawn Academy, an imposing figure in gray and purple robes. He carries a large staff with glowing purple orbs, radiating an aura of immense power. The student council president, a blue-haired young man in a vest, greets him with a nervous look. He politely mentions that the principal's entrance was a bit too grand for a simple ceremony. The principal just scoffs at the comment, retorting that he didn't ride the big lizard just to show off. He clearly has no patience for the president's formalities. He explains that he was in a rush and riding the dragon was the only way to get back in time. The beast behind him looks slightly annoyed as the principal talks about it like a common taxi. He even threatens to skin the dragon for a sofa if it scares the students again. The dragon lets out a small, cowed puff of smoke, clearly terrified of the old man. Xiao Lin watches the exchange, realizing this man is the only one with the authority to see his hidden talent. He knows he has to be extremely careful around someone this powerful. Turning to the crowd, the principal notes that he's seen the entrance test results and admits this batch of freshmen is actually quite good. His sharp blue eyes sweep across the students, as if he's peering directly into their souls. It's a gaze that feels like it's searching for something specific. Zio Lin feels the weight of that stare and tenses up, his analytical mind already trying to figure out the man's angle. The principal slams the base of his staff into the ground, activating an amplification spell. A magical circle glows beneath him as his power pulses through the air. He decides to skip the formalities and his own name, figuring that the students have more pressing things on their minds. He acknowledges that many of them were invited here under baffling or even unpleasant circumstances. He knows they're probably feeling pretty bitter about the whole thing. He tells them to take their complaints to the admissions department for delivering letters at such ungodly hours. He points a finger at a sweating staff member who can only offer a weak salute. The freshmen look around, some still processing the old man's blunt honesty, while others just look relieved the dragon isn't eating them. Suddenly, the principal's tone shifts, becoming cold and serious. He tells them it's time to drop the jokes and face reality. Raising his arms, he declares their true role to the world. They aren't just students anymore, they are colonists. He reveals the name of their new world, Planet Norma. Behind him, images of exotic beasts and vast, uncharted lands appear in the sky. He explains that the sole purpose of Dawn Academy is to train the most outstanding pioneer colonists for this new world. Monstrous creatures loom in the background as he speaks, a grim reminder of the dangers they will soon face. He makes it clear that their ordinary lives ended the very moment they opened their admission letters. There is no going back to the way things were. He tells them that starting today, some might become great generals, commanding legions and conquering vast new lands. Others might rise as grand magi, seeking the ultimate truth and wielding the very laws of magic. He even suggests some might become the leaders and kings who forge the rules of that new world. The possibilities for power are endless. The promise of strength and immortality has the crowd buzzing with excitement. For many, the treasures of planet Norma represent a chance at a life they never dreamed of. Finally, he announces a new rule that breaks long-standing tradition. Usually, freshmen are strictly forbidden from entering the new world, but the top 3 students in the upcoming exam will earn the right to go early. The principal's gaze becomes incredibly heavy, emphasizing the gravity of this decision. This is a shortcut to power, but also a massive risk. The student council president tries to interject, worried about the safety of the freshmen, but he quickly mumbles that he misspoke under the principal's glare. With the new rule established, the principal dismisses the assembly, telling them he's done with the nonsense. The president can only bow and follow him out. Zio Lin stays behind, deep in thought about the president's extreme reaction. He suspects the early entry reward is much more dangerous than the principal let on. As the crowd thins out, a voice calls out to him. It's a familiar, authoritative tone that catches his attention. He turns to see instructor Qin Chuan standing there, looking as rough and intimidating as ever. Zio Lin wonders what the instructor could possibly want with the student with the lowest stats in school. Qin Chuan explains the situation. Since the top student Gu Zioyu refused, the monitor position for Class 7 falls to the next person in line, Zio Lin. He tells Zio Lin to pay attention, because being a monitor comes with major perks like extra credits, resource quotas, and special privileges. A holographic notification confirms the appointment as Qin Chuan points out that, for a deadweight like him, this position is a vital lifeline. The instructor waves him off, saying the AI will send over the freshman manual, and he should just figure it out on his own. Zio Lin stands alone on the field, the word privileges echoing in his head as he wonders exactly what kind of door this has opened for him. He heads over to the student dormitories, a massive residential complex where he'll be living during his time at Dawn Academy. At the reception desk, a sophomore with short brown hair named Zhang Tingting is busy explaining the strict nighttime rules to the newcomers. She gives Zio Lin a cold, dismissive look as he approaches, clearly seeing him as just another typical freshman. However, her eyes instantly sparkle with excitement when she checks his ID and realizes he's actually the class monitor. She does a complete 180, patting his shoulder and insisting that anyone who manages to snag a monitor spot must be extraordinary. Zio Lin watches as she hands over his new uniforms, explaining that his grade is represented by the green fabric. She takes him up to his room, a single dorm exclusive to monitors, while pointing out that everyone else has to share a double. She hands him his gold ID tag, warning him not to lose it since it's used for everything from the curfew to class attendance. Ting winks and offers to be his mentor, telling him to hit her up whenever he has questions about his new life at school. As she waves goodbye, Xiao Lin can't help but notice how much friendlier she became the second she heard about his monitor status. He settles into his room, fully realizing that in this academy, power and rank dictate how everyone treats you. He decides it's time to get to work and summons his holographic course schedule to start planning his curriculum. A massive list of courses appears, ranging from basic swordsmanship to the geography and languages of the New World. Xiao Lin stares at the interface, his jaw dropping at the sheer number of classes he's expected to handle. He breaks into a cold sweat, realizing that even with the required courses, he still needs to pick 4 more attribute-based classes. He forces himself to calm down, reminding himself that while the workload is insane, his hidden, prodigy talent makes it possible. He knows his weak attributes are a fatal liability, so his only option is to improve them as fast as humanly possible. The 100% boost to learning efficiency from Prodigy is his trump card, and he knows he can't afford to waste a single drop of its potential. He selects basic swordsmanship as his main combat focus, figuring it's the most versatile skill for someone starting with nothing. He rounds out his schedule with physical arts and meditation, aiming to boost both his survivability and his mental focus. The holographic menu lists his final selections, including general history and the common language of Norma. With his course selection confirmed, Xiao Lin steels his resolve, knowing that in this academy, strength is the only thing that matters. The next day, Xiao Lin is already at the swordsmanship training ground, the rhythmic sounds of wooden blades striking posts echoing through the air. He focuses intently on each swing, watching the experience points for his basic swordsmanship tick up with every hit. His prodigy talent is fully active, highlighting the optimal mechanics of each strike as his learning efficiency doubles. He continues to strike with a relentless rhythm, realizing that as long as he grasps the fundamentals, his progress will only get faster. A system message pops up, confirming he's reached level 3 in swordsmanship and that his strength attribute has already increased from 2 to 3. Xiao Lin pauses to catch his breath, realizing that his theory was correct. Leveling up his skills is the most direct way to drive his base attribute growth. Nearby, another freshman collapses on the ground, weeping that he can't take it anymore, and his arms are ready to fall off. A large sword slams into the stone floor as a stern voice mocks the pathetic performance of this year's new students. This is Cheng Na, a third-year student with long purple hair serving as their substitute teacher. She's a strict instructor who demands absolute excellence. She declares that no one is leaving the training ground until their basic swordsmanship proficiency reaches level 3, ignoring the whimpering of a student clinging to a post. The students are in total despair, knowing that reaching level 2 alone usually takes hours of non-stop swinging. Xiao Lin walks right up to the intimidating instructor, his expression neutral despite the sweat on his face. He informs her that he's already reached the level 3 requirement and asks for permission to leave for his next class. Cheng Na gives him a skeptical, side-eyed glance, her arms crossed as she sizes up the unassuming freshman. She asks if he's kidding, pointing out that it's only been 2 hours into their very first day of school. Cheng Na towers over Xiao Lin, looking down on him with clear disdain. She can't believe a lucky guy with such pathetic stats managed to leech off his team for an S-rank evaluation. Her eyes narrow as she questions his claim of having level 3 swordsmanship. To her, it sounds like a desperate excuse from a freshman just trying to skip her class. Xiao Lin doesn't back down, gesturing for her to just check his status panel if she doesn't believe him. He stands his ground despite the instructor's intimidating presence. Cheng Na just smirks, dismissing the idea of looking at boring digital numbers. She has a much more hands-on way of testing a student's true ability. A red system warning flashes across the air, signaling that the instructor is activating high-level teaching permissions. The atmosphere in the arena shifts instantly. The all-system training simulation arena begins to open, digitizing the world around them. Cheng Na stands ready as the ground starts to transform into something much grimmer. Xiao Lin is suddenly transported into a dark, purple-hued dimension. He grips his sword tight as a pile of bones begins to stir right in front of him. Cheng Na undergoes a complete transformation, her body encased in sharp bone armor. She wields a massive, glowing, jagged blade that dwarfs Xiao Lin's basic weapon. The simulation is fully active now, revealing a vast graveyard filled with a literal mountain of skulls. A massive, rib-like structure looms over the battlefield as the system welcomes them. She explains that this space was built at an astronomical cost to mimic the harsh laws of the normal world. Xiao Lin looks small against the jagged, bone-covered horizon. She reassures him that he won't actually die in this simulation, but she doesn't sound very comforting. She stands behind him like a dark shadow. A close-up of her face reveals a cold, predatory look. She warns him that while death isn't permanent here, every bit of pain he feels will be 100% real. Skeletons begin to crawl out of the cracked earth, their purple eyes glowing with malice. Cheng Na watches with a cruel smile, having spent a fortune in points to set this up. She goads him to prove his level 3 swordsmanship in actual combat as a horde of undead soldiers rises behind her. Xiao Lin looks back, realizing he's completely surrounded. The instructor takes a seat on a throne of bone, looking down on the chaos. She notes that these skeleton soldiers are about as strong as the goblins he faced in the exam. She offers a carrot with the stick, promising that if he clears this dungeon, he can skip her class today and any time in the future. Xiao Lin ducks a massive cleaver just in time. A system window clarifies the stakes: survive for 40 minutes or kill 20 skeletons. Xiao Lin grips his sword, his jaw tight as the challenge begins in earnest. Sweat beads on Xiao Lin's forehead as he realizes just how insane this instructor is. Throwing a freshman into a dungeon like this just to verify their level is beyond extreme. He checks his gear and finds he's only equipped with a basic iron dagger. His physical attack evaluation is a pathetic rank E, leaving him at a massive disadvantage. The skeletons roar as they lunge forward with rusted blades. Xiao Lin knows he has 2 ways to win, and neither of them looks easy. Option 1 is to just stall for time, staying on the defensive until the clock runs out. He crouches low, dodging a sweeping attack that clears the ground behind him. Or he can choose violence. He prepares to strike as a skeleton soldier looms over him, rusted sword raised high. He moves with surprising speed, his blade slicing clean through the undead soldier's ribcage. He isn't just defending, he's going on the hunt. A clean decapitation confirms his first kill, and the counter on his screen ticks up to 1. Xiao Lin keeps his focus sharp, already looking for the next target. He does the math as he fends off multiple attackers at once. If he hits their weak points, it'll take 40 precise strikes to reach his goal of 20 kills. Xiao Lin's eyes glow with a blue intensity as he enters his flow state. He's determined to push through the physical gap with pure technique. Cheng Na watches from her throne, secretly impressed that the kid actually had the guts to charge headlong into the fray. It's not the reaction she expected. She thought he'd be terrified, begging for mercy the moment the skeletons started rising. Instead, he's actually putting up a real fight. She analyzes his every move, noting that his footwork and slashing angles are more than just decent. He knows how to generate force despite his low base stats. Xiao Lin's movements are crisp, his judgment sharp as he weaves through the undead crowd. He strikes with a purple flash, taking down another soldier with surgical precision. Cheng Na realizes he's a tier above the idiots, who only know how to swing their weapons blindly. He's making up for his trash stats with sheer skill. Xiao Lin is gasping for air, sweat drenching his shirt as the strain begins to take its toll. He's pushing his body past its limits, using every trick he knows to keep going. He's reached 13 solo kills, which is an absolute miracle considering his level. But as he blocks another blow, his arms are shaking visibly. The timer shows 28 minutes left, but Xiao Lin is already at his breaking point. He's surrounded by skeletons, his sword heavy in his hands. A skeleton lands a heavy hit, sending a shock of pain through his shoulder. Xiao Lin grunts, his vision blurring from exhaustion. Cheng Na stands up abruptly and calls out from her throne, telling him that's enough and he needs to face reality. She thinks he's done more than enough to prove his point. She tells him to just give up and surrender obediently before he gets seriously hurt. Zio Lin just stares at the ground, leaning heavily on his sword. Suddenly, a system notification flashes. Skill activated, heavy/LV, 1. Zio Lin's eye snaps open, glowing with a new, dangerous light. He unleashes a massive purple wave of energy that tears through the skeletal front line. The kill count jumps to 16 in a single, devastating explosion of power. Cheng Ne's jaw drops in pure shock as she recognizes the skill he just used. She can't wrap her head around how a freshman could possibly have heavy slash. Zio Lin becomes a blur of purple steel, the counter ticking up faster than the eye can follow. 17, 18, 19, he's cutting through them like they're made of paper. He drives his blade straight through the final skeleton skull with the last of his strength. The counter hits 20 out of 20, and the dungeon objective is finally complete. Zio Lin gasps for air, sweat dripping as he finally finds a moment of peace. Behind him, Cheng Ne watches, her expression unreadable under her bone armor helm. "Senior, your requirement?" Zio Lin huffs out, looking back at her. "I completed it." Cheng Ne stands tall, staring down at the exhausted freshman. She realizes getting an S rank wasn't just luck. This kid actually has the skill to back it up. The scene shifts to the sleek exterior of the student council office. Inside, a green-haired assistant drops a heavy stack of documents onto the desk. The student council president, a calm youth with blue hair, looks up from his work. The assistant points to a specific file, looking worried. She tells the president there's a certain class schedule he really needs to take a look at. A freshman's course selection is very bizarre," she says, holding the folder tight. The president leans back, looking at the name, Zio Lin. He's stunned to see the freshman has selected every single course available at the academy. The clock strikes 12:04 p.m. at the Dawn Academy Infirmary. Back at the infirmary, Cheng Ne is in a heated argument with the president. She snaps that she didn't mean to mess him up, but she had to test him in the middle of class. "Nana, this isn't the first time you've treated freshmen like this," the president says calmly. Cheng Ne barks back, asking if he has a problem with her teaching methods. The president sighs, explaining that the new students just enrolled and she doesn't need to be so hardcore. Zio Lin lies unconscious in the hospital bed behind them. Cheng Ne stands her ground, arguing that being strict is the only way to prepare them. To her, coddling new students is the real cruelty. The student council president closes his eyes, clearly exhausted by her stubbornness. Cheng Ne looks away, her expression softening ever so slightly, though she remains silent. On the bed, Zio Lin's eyes flutter open as he groans in pain. The president leans in, noticing he's finally awake. Cheng Ne watches from the foot of the bed, her arms crossed. Zio Lin sits up slowly, looking around the high-tech room. The president welcomes him back, nodding that the academy's infirmary facilities are top-notch. He explains to Zio Lin that full immersion fields are different from normal dungeons. Your stamina and mental energy don't just reset when you leave. The exhaustion follows you back. He folds his hands, telling Zio Lin he passed out from sheer exhaustion. "How do you feel now?" he asks with a gentle smile. Zio Lin stretches his arm, saying he feels much better, though his muscles are still sore. The president tells him to just rest a bit more. The president gives a reassuring look. He then turns to Cheng Ne, calling her Nana again and asking her to leave so he can speak with Zio Lin in private. She looks genuinely annoyed. Cheng Ne bites her lip, looking like she has a lot more she wants to say. "HMPH, fine, I'll go," she snaps, turning on her heel and heading for the door. Her heavy boots click against the floor as she makes a quick exit. Suddenly, she stops and looks back over her shoulder. "Hey, punk," she shouts, getting Zio Lin's attention. She tells him she's a woman of her word, and that his early leave privilege is officially approved. But her tone turns serious, as she warns him that students who try to train both magic and martial arts never end well. Without another word, she steps out and slams the sliding door shut with a loud bang. Zio Lin watches the closed door, thinking to himself that this senior isn't quite the she-dinosaur monster everyone makes her out to be. The president clears his throat, signaling it's time to get back to business. He asks if Zio Lin read the handbook, which explicitly warns against taking too many courses at once. A digital display shows the physical branch, covering swordsmanship, movement, and general physical training. Another display shows the magic branch, which includes meditation, spells, and perception skills. He admits that dual training gives an edge in the first year, as it allows a student to handle a wider variety of combat situations. But he warns that as the curriculum deepens, each branch splits into hundreds of specialized subpaths. By the second and third years, trying to master both would require 6 or 7 times the effort of a normal student. He compares the courses to a branching tree that splits finer and finer the further you go. Zio Lin simply replies, "I know." Zio Lin looks determined, staring straight ahead. "But I still want to give it a shot," he declares. He clenches his fist, confident that with his top student talent backing him up, he can absolutely pull it off. A holographic screen suddenly pings with a notification. The president looks down to see a new message from the principal. The student council president pauses, staring at the holographic notification with a surprised expression. "All right then, Junior Zio Lin," he says, turning back to the student. "Since the principal has already approved your course selection, I won't harp on it." He explains that the schedule needs re-optimizing, and a new timetable will be ready by tomorrow morning. Zio Lin sits in the infirmary bed, thanking the president for the help. Zio Lin looks down, his brow furrowed with suspicion. He wonders how the principal's message arrived at such a perfectly timed moment. It's as if he's been being watched the entire time. Outside, the sun begins to set over the sprawling, majestic campus of Dawn Academy. In the grand principal's office, a figure in a dark robe stands before a towering, ornate window that looks out over the grounds. The principal, an elderly man with long white hair and a flowing beard, stares out with a weary gaze. A playful voice breaks the silence, asking why he has such a long face. Floating in a cloud of digital particles, the Dawn Academy Central Main Control System, AI, appears as a teenage girl with silver hair and glowing red eyes. She teases the principal, asking him to share his troubles so she can have a good laugh. The principal glances back at the mischievous AI, nodding that she seems to have been influenced by the anime culture of Blue Star lately. The Dawn Academy Central Main Control System, AI, twirls in the air, her white dress fluttering. She playfully asks if her current look is trending and offers to help recruit more freshmen if it is. The principal turns toward her, his expression stern. He reminds her that as the Academy's central brain, her existence is a secret known only to a select few. The Dawn Academy Central Main Control System, AI, puffs out her cheeks in a pout, complaining that even after 100 years, the principal remains as boring as ever. She floats up behind him, pointing out that this year's freshman class is exceptionally strong. She mentions the SS rank student and asks why that doesn't make him happy. The principal looks away, explaining that a normal person's total attributes usually average around 10 points. He continues, stating that the Academy's admission baseline is at least 20 points. However, Zio Lin's total stats only add up to 9, making him appear completely ordinary. Talents can only be detected after enrollment, he continues, his voice low and serious. This means that by all accounts, Zio Lin should never have received an admission notice. The Dawn Academy Central Main Control System, AI, laughs it off, suggesting it might just be a lucky mistake by the admissions department that landed them a genius. The principal turns his back to her, staring out the window once more. He reveals that when he tried to pull the boys' records, he found something truly disturbing. He stands still in the middle of the silent office, the weight of his words hanging in the air. There is no record of Zio Lin's admission in the system at all. Inside the Dawn Academy's high-tech command center, the AI reports that total enrollment stands at 1,360 students. But there's a catch. The central computer only has records for 1,359 admission letters. One is completely missing. The principal is baffled since something like this has never happened in the Academy's history. He asks the main control program what's going on. The AI confirms that 1,360 letters were definitely issued, so the math should be right. Growing suspicious, the principal tells her to pull up Zio Lin's admission letter immediately. The AI gives him a smug look and delivers the bad news. Even as the principal, he doesn't have the security clearance to see that specific file. He's stunned. A simple admission letter is locked away from the head of the school. The AI admits she's just as surprised as he is, but the system's rules are absolute. The principal stares ahead, deep in thought about this mysterious student. He decides to let the matter go for now, realizing some things are better left alone. Instead, he uses his highest authority to encrypt every other freshman's letter to keep the database secure. The AI accepts the command without hesitation. Data streams fly past her as she begins the heavy-duty encryption process. Seconds later, she confirms that all 1359 accessible letters are now locked under the tightest security. That one remaining file is still untouched, maintaining its own maximum level of protection that no one can crack. The AI looks at him, sensing he's trying to hide the identity of the student that missing letter belongs to. The principal mentions he's headed back to the New World tomorrow. He wants to make sure that while he's gone, nobody gets in the way of Xiao Lin's development. He officially leaves the Academy's internal affairs in the AI's hands. The next day in the cafeteria, things are bustling with students grabbing their meals. A senior student named Zhang Tingting spots Xiao Lin and recognizes him as the kid who fainted after just one class. Xiao Lin is caught off guard, realizing his embarrassing debut has already become campus gossip. Tingting warns him that running into someone like Senior Cheng Na is just pure bad luck. Xiao Lin tries to change the subject, asking if only teachers can access the holographic simulation training field. She looks at him like he's crazy and asks if he's even bothered to check his monitor permissions yet. She explains that being a class monitor comes with some pretty serious perks. A digital interface pops up, showing he can manage his classmates' data and status. He also has the power to approve or deny requests for the simulation field from anyone in his class. Even better, as a monitor, he can apply to use the field himself without needing anyone else's okay. Xiao Lin finds the button and decides to give it a shot right then and there. Tingting tells him to apply for student mode, though she's sure a freshman will just get auto-rejected. Just as she says that, a notification dings on his screen. He actually found the option. Tingting literally spits out her drink when she sees the approved message flash across his interface. She's totally floored. Her own monitor had to wait 3 weeks for an approval, yet this kid got it instantly. She warns him that the simulation field is normally sophomore territory and costs a whopping 500 redemption points just to open. Those points only come back if you pass the training, fail, and they're gone for good. Xiao Lin realizes the stakes are high. He only has 800 points total, so failure isn't an option. He remembers the principal mentioning that only the top 3 in the upcoming exam get to go to the New World early. Then, the ponytail-haired male teacher, Qin Chuan, didn't forget to remind everyone that the monitor position would be re-elected right after the big exam. He remembered Wang Dalin roaring in contempt, barking that once the election comes around, a weakling like Xiao Lin wouldn't stand a snowball's chance in hell of keeping his position. Xiao Lin knows the heavy hitters in Class 7, like Gu Xiaoyu and Wang Dalin, are waiting for their turn to take his spot. He narrows his eyes, determined to grind and get stronger before the re-election exam takes everything away. Xiao Lin says his goodbyes to Zhang Tingting, heading off to his next class. Tingting watches him go, impressed by his dedication. She thinks it's no wonder a hard worker like him became the acting monitor. Over at the gym, students are finishing up their workout and heading out for the day. Liang Ziyu, a freshman from Class 6, is fuming. He can't believe someone with such garbage stats was chosen as an acting monitor, calling the decision insane. In a fit of rage, a muscular student nearby completely crushes his water bottle. This is Wang Dalin, and he's just as angry. He insults the counselors, calling them flunkies who couldn't even make it past their first year. He snarls that a counselor's vision must be trash if they're backing someone like Xiao Lin. He looks down at the gym floor, calling Xiao Lin a poser for staying late for solo training. Wang Dalin isn't just mad at Xiao Lin. He's also bitter about Gu Xiaoyu looking down on him, promising to show her what he's capable of. Liang Ziyu smirks and suggests they don't wait 3 months for the official assessment. He wants to teach Xiao Lin a lesson right now. He tells Dalen he has a connection in the disciplinary department and suggests framing Xiao Lin for a rule violation to tank his points. Unaware of the plot, Xiao Lin is pushing himself to the limit on the treadmill, slowly racking up physical fitness experience. He's sweating buckets, but he's making progress. His basic physical fitness is currently sitting at level 1. He finally stops to catch his breath, noticing it's already almost 7 o'clock. He figures he can just make it back to the dorms before curfew if he leaves now. As he walks toward the exit, he plans to keep up this routine every day until he hits level 2. But when he reaches for the door handle, something's wrong. It won't budge. Multiple clicking sounds echo through the empty gym. The door has been deadbolted from the outside. He stares at the lock in disbelief, wondering if he's really trapped inside. He tries the handle again, thinking the staff was just being careless and didn't bother checking if anyone was still in here. He grumbles about having to sleep in the gym since curfew is coming up fast. Suddenly, a loud snap echoes through the room as the lights completely die. Xiao Lin stands frozen in the middle of the pitch-black training room. He tries to stay calm, forcing a laugh and telling himself it's just the power being cut for the night. He shivers in the dark, questioning why a fancy school would cut the power while students might still be around. The night sky over the academy holds a strange secret, 2 crescent moons hanging side by side. Someone's reporting a freshman monitor for breaking curfew. Chen Yu and Han Sen from the discipline department are on the move. Han Sen confirms the tip-off came from Liang Ziyu and insists they need to make an example of the kid. Chen Yu adjusts his glasses, nodding that with the principal and president away, these small-time violations fall squarely on him. He's not planning on being lenient. He wants his department to keep a suffocatingly close watch for any slip-ups. Han Sen is all smiles and flattery, eager to prove his worth to the grade leader. They reach the training ground, ready to start their sweep. Han Sen's smirk widens. He's clearly looking forward to the enforcement part of the job. He figures an acting monitor must have a hoard of redemption points, just waiting to be seized. A door pulls open with a sharp, echoing creak. The gym looks deserted, leaving Han Sen blinking into the dark shadows. Chen Yu asks what's wrong, while Han Sen points a shaking finger into the empty room. He's positive he heard someone scurrying around in here just a moment ago. Xiao Lin is pressed flat against the wall, holding his breath as sweat beads on his forehead. Chen Yu isn't buying it. The door was locked from the outside, so nobody could have been inside. Han Sen brushes it off with a nervous laugh, figuring his ears must be playing tricks on him. But as he turned to leave, his face went completely blank. He was utterly seething that his prey had vanished into thin air like magic. Little did he know, while he was frantically searching around, Xiao Lin had already slipped away undetected. Outside, the wind rustles through the forest under the pale blue light of the stars. Xiao Lin finally lets out a ragged breath, leaning against a tree as he realizes how close he came to getting caught. He knows that being caught out at night means a massive point deduction. It finally clicks. Getting locked in and then having the patrol show up immediately wasn't a coincidence. It was a setup. He wonders if he's overthinking it, or if someone actually has a target on his back. His eyes sharpen as he looks toward the horizon. There they are again, 2 moons glowing brightly above the tree line. He remembers the lesson about the academy being modeled after Norma World. Now he's seeing it for himself. Returning to the gym is too risky, so he has to find a new place to lay low for the night. A massive, jagged purple head rises from the foliage nearby. A chill runs down his spine as he senses something far larger than any student watching him. A giant glowing purple eye blinks open, focusing its gaze directly on him. It's the purple dragon, the same beast from the entrance ceremony. Xiao Lin freezes, his mind racing as he recognizes the monster. The dragon shifts, its wings casting a massive shadow across the clearing. It stares down at him with an intensity that makes his blood run cold. Flight is the only option. He doesn't wait to find out if it's hungry. He turns and bolts as fast as he can. He glances back, praying he's not about to become a midnight snack. Through the dense trees, he spots the outline of a large building. Desperate for any kind of shelter, he decides to dive inside and hide. He slips through a trellis-covered entrance, the wood creaking under his weight. He stops to catch his breath, hoping the dragon won't follow him into a confined space. A rustling sound comes from the garden nearby. He looks down to see a black bird with glowing red eyes staring back. That's no ordinary chicken. It's not just the birds. The cabbages in this garden are bigger than he is. Nearby, a bush is loaded with glowing red fruit that smells incredibly sweet. He wonders if he should risk a taste. Xiao Lin stares down at the bird, wondering if it's as tasty as it looks. It looks plump and delicious. Suddenly, he's really craving some beggar's chicken. But the bird has other plans and lets out a deafening roar. He's barely processed the sound before the chicken literally breathes fire right at his face. Xiao Lin scrambles backward, realizing this academy is way more dangerous than he thought. Suddenly, a hand reaches out and snatches the fire breather right by its neck. Xiao Lin freezes, looking up at the mysterious newcomer. The man looks tired, holding the limp bird while accusing Xiao Lin of trying to steal his livestock in the middle of the night. The two stand in the garden, a tense silence settling between them under the moonlight. Xiao Lin gulps and tries to find his voice to ask who this guy even is. The man just scoffs at the question. He introduces himself as Song Junlang, the head of the logistics department, and he's not happy about the intruder. Song Junlang notes that Xiao Lin is a freshman who's already managed to break curfew and trespass in his territory. He holds up the traumatized chicken, asking how the kid plans to pay for scaring his dinner. Xiao Lin panics, apologizing and explaining he was just trying to hide from the dragon roaming around. To make a long story short, he recounts how he ended up locked in the training grounds earlier. He explains the whole setup, with the patrol showing up while he was trapped inside. And eventually, he ran into the massive, fire-breathing purple dragon. Song Junlang listens before telling him that Big Lizard isn't actually a threat. He casually adds that Xiao Lin is way too weak for a dragon to even bother attacking. Xiao Lin can't believe the man just called that monster a lizard. As for the training ground incident, Song Junlang says it's a classic trick from the discipline department. Xiao Lin realizes he was set up, while Song Junlang brings up redemption points, the hard currency of the academy. Everything from buying equipment to activating simulation fields requires these points. Even getting resources from the new world costs a fortune. Those points are also the key to whether you can actually graduate or move on to the new world. He explains that the discipline department loves playing entrapment games with unsuspecting students. They set you up to break a rule, then offer a private settlement to keep it quiet. Basically, you hand over a few hundred redemption points as a fine to avoid getting a formal deduction. Xiao Lin is disgusted by the tactic and immediately suspects Wang Dalin is behind his framing. Song Junlang turns his attention back to the junior standing in front of him. Staying out all night and trespassing in the logistics department are serious offenses. Combined, those two rules could cost Xiao Lin a massive amount of points. A loud thump echoes from the gate, catching them both off guard. Song Junlang realizes the discipline department is dead set on catching the rule breaker tonight. He smirks, asking if he should just open the door and let them take him away. Xiao Lin pleads with the senior, hoping he's not just telling him all this to watch him fail. Song Junlang is impressed by the kid's quick thinking and decides he's worth the effort. He suddenly asks Xiao Lin if he knows anything about cooking. Xiao Lin is completely baffled by the question. He stammers out a weak, maybe a little, thinking back to his college days. In reality, his cooking experience is just scrolling through tutorials while eating snacks. He's never actually touched a stove. Song Junlang offers a way out, claiming that as long as Xiao Lin can cook, his standards are actually quite low. He promises to handle the search party outside and ensure Xiao Lin doesn't lose any points, provided the freshman does him a small favor. He's been craving a specific dish called beggar's chicken for ages and wants Xiao Lin to use this very bird to make him a feast. Xiao Lin points to himself, sweating as he realizes he's being tasked with cooking this fire-breathing monster. Song Junlang reminds him that he's trapped anyway, giving him a choice between two very different paths. Either walk out and face the certain punishment and point loss, or stay behind and cook the chicken while Song settles everything. Desperate to save his credits, Zio Lin puts on a brave face and agrees to the deal. Song Junlang flashes a sinister grin, wanting to make sure it's on the record that this is a completely voluntary act. Zio Lin agrees enthusiastically, though he can't shake the sinking feeling that he's just signed a deal with the devil. Song points toward the building, telling the freshmen to hide inside and stay as quiet as a mouse while he handles the group outside. Zio Lin hurries off, thanking the senior for the unexpected lifeline. Song Junlang steps out to meet the patrol, greeting them with a casual and irritatingly cheerful shout. He specifically addresses the group's leader, Chen Yu, who looks far from pleased to see him. He asks if the discipline department is so hungry that they've come to the logistics garden looking for a midnight snack. Adjusting his glasses, Chen Yu explains they're investigating reports of abnormal movement from the principal's pet bird. He insults Song for wasting his time with such trivial things late at night, unaware that the pet is currently in a ghostly state of shock. Song Junlang just chuckles, clearly enjoying the confrontation. He dryly asks if they actually managed to find whatever was causing all that abnormal movement. The purple-haired student, Han Sen, snaps back that the discipline department has the authority to patrol every inch of the academy. He adds that they're hunting for a freshman breaking curfew and warns Song that he doesn't have the rank to block their inspection. Song's casual demeanor vanishes, and he stares down Han Sen, calling him a low-level lackey who shouldn't butt in. He threatens to report the group for trespassing if they continue to annoy him, knowing full well the underhanded tactics they usually employ. Chen Yu is seething at the threat, his face contorted with anger. He scoffs, stating that everyone knows Song's actual power level isn't even C-class. He calls the senior a connection hire, who wouldn't even be qualified for the second year if the principal hadn't personally appointed him as a department head. Zio Lin watches the scene unfold from the shadows, surprised by the blatant disrespect. It's clear to him now that Chen Yu has a massive grudge against Senior Song. The freshman realizes that the internal politics of the academy are just as dangerous as the monsters outside. Chap 13. Back at the logistics department, the air is thick with tension as Chen Yu stares down Minister Song. Zio Lin stays hidden in the shadows, sweating bullets as he wonders if these two are actually about to throw hands. Song just scoffs, looking completely unimpressed by the senior's posturing. He mocks Chen Yu, pointing out that provoking someone with his level of connections isn't exactly a high IQ move. One of Chen Yu's lackeys snaps, warning Song that even his friendship with the principal won't let him ignore academy rules. He shouts that the discipline department has formal authority, and Song has no right to get in their way. Suddenly, a sharp chime cuts through the argument, an incoming call from the academy president. Chen Yu's face hardens as he orders the call to be put through. A blue hologram flickers into life, and the president immediately demands to know why Chen Yu is harassing the logistics department. He gives a direct order to stand down, but Chen Yu tries to argue that they're just hunting for anomalies. Chen Yu grits his teeth, furious that he was so close to finally pinning something on Song. His subordinate isn't backing down either, accusing the president of being blatantly biased. He insists that the freshmen might be hiding right under their noses. The president's tone goes cold, as he explains that the entire academy owes Minister Song a debt they can never repay. Because of that favor, Song has a free pass to do whatever he wants as long as it doesn't sink the school. Chen Yu's ego takes a massive hit, and he lets out a frustrated growl. With no other choice, he barks out the order to retreat. The discipline squad turns around and starts their walk of shame out of the garden. Before disappearing, Chen Yu tosses a final threat over his shoulder, telling Song to watch his back. Song just gives him a lazy smirk, telling the senior to worry about himself instead. Once the coast is clear, Zio Lin steps out and apologizes for all the trouble he's caused. He's genuinely confused about how someone as eccentric as Song could have the school's leadership in his pocket. Song laughs it off, claiming those guys just pick fights because they're bored. He quickly changes the subject, ushering the kid away to get started on that beggar's chicken. Zio Lin can't believe the man is prioritizing dinner after almost getting into a political war. He warns Song that he's never made this before, so he can't promise it'll actually taste good. He starts by prepping the hybrid chicken, which is way tougher than any bird back home. He wraps it carefully in leaves and a thick layer of mud, following the traditional recipe. As the fire crackles, Zio Lin sits back and monitors the roast. The two of them wait in silence, the only sound being the wood snapping in the flames. For the first time since being dragged to this academy, Zio Lin actually feels a moment of peace. After 2 hours, a rich, mouth-watering aroma begins to fill the garden. Zio Lin cracks open the clay shell, sweating from the heat but relieved that it looks like a success. He starts to wonder if he might actually have a secret talent for the culinary arts. Song leans in, looking impressed as the steam rises from the golden brown meat. Song tore off a massive drumstick and handed it to Zio Lin for orchestrating this chicken dish. But when he notices Song isn't reaching for it, he asks if something is wrong. Song puts on a noble act, insisting that as the chef, Zio Lin deserves to take the very first bite. Starving after all the training and hiding, the freshman doesn't need to be told twice. He takes a massive, confident bite of the drumstick. His eyes light up. It's tender, flavorful, and easily the best chicken he's ever tasted. But as he chews, Song's expression turns serious and he asks a chilling question. How does his body actually feel? Zio Lin is confused. He doesn't understand why the minister is asking about how his body feels instead of how the food tastes. Suddenly, a sharp, rhythmic thumping starts in his chest. Something is very wrong. The chicken drops to the ground as he clutches his stomach. It feels like he just swallowed a gallon of liquid fire. Song Junlang stands over him, casually asking if the pain is the only thing he's feeling. He tells the kid to just endure it, promising the agony will pass once the process is complete. Zio Lin gasps on the floor, realizing the minister knew exactly what this chicken would do. The man looks down with a calm, almost predatory smile, watching his experiment unfold. The freshman's vision begins to blur as he loses the fight to stay awake. In his mind, he's floating in a void, his entire body radiating an intense golden light. Glowing veins of energy begin to trace patterns across his skin, flowing through his blood. The heat inside him becomes unbearable, like his very soul is being cooked. But under the pain, there's a surge of raw power he's never felt in his life. Song's notebook shows the truth. This was hybrid iron-crowned chicken number 3, specifically bred for physical enhancement. The minister notes that despite his improvements, the biological rejection response is still incredibly violent. He watches over the unconscious boy, waiting for the results of the transformation to settle. 2 days pass, and the sun rises over the quiet medical facility. The inside is a typical researcher's mess, a chaotic lab filled with papers and strange tools. Zio Lin groggily opens his eyes, his head spinning as if he's just come off a roller coaster. Song Junlang walks in, looking far too cheerful while carrying a bowl of glowing golden items. As soon as he's fully awake, Zio Lin snaps, accusing the man of using him as a lab rat. The minister just laughs it off, claiming there was never any real risk to his life. Zio Lin isn't having it, swearing he'd come back to haunt the guy if that meal had killed him. Song tells him to take a breath and relax, since he's clearly fine now. He suggests that before they argue anymore, the kid should take a look at his stats panel. The minister promises that he's in for a massive surprise. Zio Lin narrows his eyes, skeptical but willing to check the numbers. He summons the holographic interface, deciding to trust the man one last time. The display flickers to life, showing his updated attributes. He scans the list of numbers, his expression turning from annoyance to pure confusion. Suddenly, he lets out a shout of disbelief. His strength went up by a point, but his physique jumped by 2, and his overall rating finally hit F. He's stunned. Such a massive boost from a single meal seems impossible. He continues scrolling, and his eyes practically pop out of his head. His basic physical training skill has jumped 2 entire levels all at once. It's at level 3 now, a jump that would usually take weeks of exhausting work. Song Junlang looks like he's about to burst with pride as he sees the results. He lets out a triumphant laugh, screaming that his formula actually worked. Zio Lin demands an explanation for what that chicken really was. He asks if the effect really came from that mutant bird they just ate. Song pulls up a chair and tells him to take a seat so they can talk science. He reveals that the bird was a Tago ironcrest chicken, a unique species he created. He explains that he spent years crossbreeding domestic chickens with alien creatures from the world of Norma. Song Junlang shifts the conversation to fiction, asking Zio Lin if he's ever read those stories where someone is transported to another world. He poses a hypothetical. If a primitive caveman were suddenly dropped into the middle of a modern city, how long would he actually survive? Zio Lin recognizes the theory immediately. It's a common trope in science fiction and survival stories. He explains that the caveman wouldn't have the right immune system for modern diseases and would likely be killed by common germs. A small illustration shows the poor caveman being overwhelmed by giant, malicious-looking microbes. Song confirms it's the same logic for them. Blue Star and Norma are fundamentally different environments. He explains that student bodies must reach a certain stat threshold before they can physically adapt to the new world. Zio Lin finally understands why the student council president was so alarmed by the principal's suggestion of an early entry. Song's brainwave was to find a shortcut by using the biology of Norma's creatures to speed up the human adaptation process. He sheepishly admits that his first attempt involved eating the creatures raw, which almost resulted in his death. Zio Lin is left speechless by the minister's absolute lack of self-preservation during his research. Song explains that his subsequent research focused on creating hybrids that would reduce the violent rejection response. He calls his breakthrough food therapy, though he notes it only works once per specific hybrid breed. Zio Lin listens intently as the man explains the biological limitations of his experiment. Song jokes that if people could just eat for stats, the academy wouldn't bother with the grueling physical training classes. While the chicken won't help him anymore, Song mentions he has plenty of other edible hybrids for the freshmen to test. Zio Lin realizes that despite the rewards, he's effectively become the minister's willing guinea pig. Song Junlang gives a soft, satisfied chuckle as he sees the realization sink in. Zio Lin agrees to help, but only on the condition that his life isn't put in danger again. Song promises he's safe, and then nonchalantly reveals that Zio Lin has been unconscious for 2 whole days. The news sends Zio Lin into a panic. He's terrified his credits will plummet for missing so much class. The minister reassures him, explaining that he's already approved a leave slip that covers his entire absence. Relieved, Zio Lin finally relaxes as he prepares to return to his normal student life. He heads for the door, and Song reminds him not to forget their dinner appointment later tonight. Meanwhile, in the cafeteria, Gu Zioyu eats her meal in her usual quiet, focused manner. Behind her, several students are engaged in a loud and heated discussion about recent events. Hansen tells the others to drop the subject of Zio Lin, clearly frustrated by how the situation turned out. The student who locked Zio Lin in the training field is fuming, unable to accept that the boy simply vanished for 2 days. He's even more annoyed that instead of being expelled, Zio Lin somehow managed to get on good terms with the Minister of Logistics. Gu Zioyu listens to the gossip, realizing that she really hasn't seen Zio Lin since the training field incident. She's pulled out of her thoughts when someone sits down at the table right next to her. Zio Lin appears with a casual wave and a grin, looking remarkably healthy for someone who was just missing. Gu Zioyu looks him up and down, demanding to know where on earth he's been for the last 48 hours.